So here we're not talking about, see, most people who believe in God would try to tell you that their belief about God which has a certain flavour, is based upon faith. And I'm saying, no, it should not be based upon faith. It should be based upon mathematical and scientific truth, right? Once it's based on mathematical and scientific truth, you can have faith in it because there's a certainty about it once it's based on mathematical and scientific truth. But if something is just an idea or a philosophy or a concept, then there's little point in believing in it if it's not established by some kind of mathematical and scientific certainty. So there's not a lot of point in believing in things that are not actually real. You can philosophize about many, many things, but many of the things that you present as philosophies might not be real. So what's the point of even discussing them if that's the case? We're just having, you could say, a spitballing of ideas, but to no real advantage to the human. The real advantage to the human is to know the truth. If you know the truth, now your life, it results in a lot more freedom than before. The truth being the mathematical and scientific certainty of what the absolute truth is about a certain subject. Sandra?
Can I just ask?
That mic's not working. Can you just...
So with, you know how you said people that believe in God and don't oftentimes or have what they call faith rather than the mathematical and scientific feeling the evidence of God, is that something like that they're not seeing? We're not looking at the evidence in the universe that God exists in terms of, the maths in creation.
Yeah, we'll talk about God's, last weekend or 2 weeks ago, we talked a lot about God, didn't we? And God's existence and the certainty of God's existence. But it's all mathematical certainty, it's not mystery. And the average religious person believes in a mystery. So if you look at the Christian faith, for example, there's the mystery of the Godhead. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Mm-hmm. That's a mystery. And they tell you that you can't even know it because it's a mystery. Well, if you can't know something, that it's not of God. Right? Because everything of God is mathematical and scientific. You can see it presented in the universe constantly. So all of the operation of all the stars and the planets and all of the suns, which are the stars, and the movement of bodies in the universe, all of them are governed by law. They're all governed by certainty. This is how they can shoot a rocket from here and get to the moon and come back and still be alive, because there's mathematical certainty in the principles that govern the universe. This also applies to God. There's mathematical certainty. In fact, God being the source of all mathematics, must be a mathematician because of the certainty that you can see in all creation. Your body works a certain way. This is how a doctor can go into your body and try to fix some things, because he knows a certain part of it. Obviously, they don't know everything about the human body, but they know certain parts of it to be able to get into your body and fix it. How would that happen if there was no certainty? If my heart was on this side and your heart's on this side and somebody else's heart's down here somewhere, it would be very unpredictable and very hard to study, wouldn't it? And you're basically going to be taking your life at a risk every time you go under a scalpel. But most people go into a doctor with a lot of confidence, even if they are getting an operation, that they'll come out of the operation still alive, for the reason that there's certainty in the way where everything in your body is placed, even. So there's certainty everywhere. Yeah. And well, we need to look at how you determine truth about things you can't see. But we humans have determined truths at the moment about many things they can't see. Right? Recently there's been a measurement of small particles, like what they're searching for, like they call the God particle. And they've been searching for small particles. And what they do is they use all this energy and other things and to create a separation of particles, and then they measure the effects of those particles without seeing them. That's how they know they're there. Does that make sense? So they're measuring things based on certainty based upon the effects of them even though they can't see them. So seeing something is not a requirement of truth, right? Because you've got to have, there's all sorts of ways you can measure something without seeing it. So an example, sound wave. You can measure that right, you're measuring that right now. I'm speaking, producing a wave, you're hearing it, and that sound is going through space. You can't see it, but you trust it. You know it's there because you're hearing the effect of it. That's an example of certainty of something you cannot see, and yet you believe in it totally. Humans do this all the time. It's the same with light. The things you're actually seeing are actually wavelengths of light. They're actually vibrations that your eye is tuned to pick up in a certain wavelength. You think about those vibrations of light, and the average person doesn't understand that that's what makes colour. And different vibrations of light makes colour. But, you think about 150, 200 years ago when they didn't really know much about that, right? The average person probably gave it no consideration at all, but there's huge amounts of laws that govern how this vibration is measured by your eye and then transmitted to signals in your brain, and you can then interpret those messages and work out that what you're seeing is actually real, because I can go up to you and touch your face because I can see it, and I know exactly how to touch it because I can see it. But all that is based upon things I can't see being transmitted between you and I. And so there's many things we can't see. Now, obviously, one of those things is God. But that doesn't mean that just because we can't see God, that there isn't examples of the effects of God everywhere.